I was halfway through my morning coffee when I saw the envelope. No postage stamp. No return address. Just my name, written in shaky cursive that made my skin crawl. I hadn't heard that name in years. Not since the hospital, not since they told me to bury the girl I used to be. The girl who screamed about a house in the woods that didn't exist. The girl who remembered pain in fragments and shadows. Before you hear my story, tap subscribe and drop a comment if you ever wake up missing pieces of your life. Look deeper. Someone might be feeding on your silence now. I was Kara Wells, a librarian in a coastal town where people smiled too politely and never asked about your past. I liked it that way, but as I turned the envelope over in my hands, something ancient stirred beneath the surface, something I thought I'd forgotten. I opened it with trembling fingers. You were right. The house was real. But you never should have come back. My knees buckled, and I sat down hard on the edge of the sofa. The letter was written on brittle yellow paper, like it had been tucked away for decades. My hands knew the texture, the smell, even the ink. I remembered it from the room upstairs. The one with peeling wallpaper and a locked attic door. A door I'd sworn didn't exist, but it did. God, it did. I was found at the edge of Ashlow Woods, 10 years ago. Bleeding. Barefoot, babbling nonsense. At least, that's how they told the story in the reports. I had no ID. No family. No memory that made sense. I kept whispering Elsbeth. And the blue room. And don't let them find me. The paramedics assumed I was drugged. The hospital decided I was delusional. After months of therapy, I stopped talking about the house with the white picket fence and the blood under the floorboards, but now, someone else remembered. I whispered the letter's signature like a prayer. There was only one person who used to call herself Elsbeth, but she couldn't have written this, because Elsbeth was never real. They told me she was a hallucination. An imaginary friend, born from trauma, unless she was the only real thing I ever knew. I'd always remembered pieces. A hallway lined with mirrors that didn't reflect your face. A basement door that pulsed, like it was breathing. A woman in a red dress who watched me sleep, but the clearest memory was the drawing. They found it in the pocket of my dress when I was admitted. A crumpled map of a forest clearing and a square labeled home. My therapist said I'd sketched it during a breakdown. That I was trying to give myself structure, a sense of belonging, but looking at the letter now, I realized something I hadn't before. The handwriting matched, the same shaky H, the same hooked R at the end of home. Elsbeth's writing. Not mine. In that night, I packed a bag and left a note for my manager. Sick leave, it said. Back next week. I didn't believe it. Ashlow Woods was 3 hours inland. A forgotten patch of land where phone signals vanished and compasses spun in circles. I'd avoided it for a decade. Not because I thought the house wasn't real, but because I feared that it was. I drove in silence. Radio off. Heart pounding. Every mile was a step closer to something my mind had buried in the sand, like bones that never stopped whispering. I parked just before the tree line. The place looked unchanged, like it had been plucked from time and left to rot. The woods greeted me with stillness. No birds. No wind. Just that heavy, oppressive silence that makes you feel like you're being watched. I followed the same path they claimed didn't exist. Overgrown now, yes, but I knew where it went. I felt it under my skin. Then I saw it. The center of the clearing, the house, painted white, though the wood had grayed with time. Curtains fluttering in broken windows. The front door slightly ajar. I choked on my own breath, because it was exactly as I remembered it, and yet, the police reports had said no such structure existed when they searched this place. I stepped onto the porch, the wood groaned under my weight. Dust spiraled in the air like ghosts dancing. I reached for the doorknob, heart jackhammering in my chest, and pushed the door open. It didn't creak. It didn't groan. It sighed, like it had been waiting for me. Inside, the air was stale. I could still smell lavender and rust. My shoes crunched over shattered porcelain, and I recognized the floral pattern immediately. Elsbeth's favorite teacups. On the far wall was a framed picture. I moved closer and froze. It was me, younger, paler. Braided hair and vacant eyes. Standing beside a woman in red, the woman who used to watch me sleep. I backed away, my pulse roaring in my ears. I turned, and something moved in the hallway upstairs. A soft creak. A shadow. I wasn't alone. I stood frozen at the base of the staircase, staring up into the dark. That creak wasn't the house settling. It was deliberate. Too slow. Too precise. Someone, or something, was up there, but I didn't run. I should have. Every nerve in my body screamed to turn and sprint back into the woods, back to my car, back to the fiction of safety. But I couldn't move. Not until I knew what waited behind that door to the attic, the one I was never allowed to enter as a child, the one I was told didn't exist, when I was 8, or at least, when I remember being 8, I used to have dreams about her. The woman in the red dress, she would sit on the end of my bed in this very house and hum lullabies in a language I didn't recognize. Her lips never moved. Her eyes were always fixed on the ceiling, like she was listening for something beneath. The rafters, sometimes, I'd wake up and find her gone. Other times, I'd wake up and find her still there, and once I didn't wake up at all. At least, not until I was found screaming on the road. The doctors said it was a coping mechanism. That I'd invented her, like a child invents monsters in the closet to explain the fear they can't name, but the red woman was real, she was in that picture, she knew me, and something told me she was still here. I climbed the stairs slowly, my flashlight sweeping over peeling wallpaper and picture frames full of blurred faces. The hallway was lined with 7 doors. I remembered only 4. All the doors were closed, except one. At the very end of the hall, just beneath the sloped ceiling, hung a door covered in scratch marks. Deep, ragged gouges in the wood, like fingernails dragged in desperation. I knew that door, even though I'd never opened it. I stepped forward. The temperature dropped. I could see my own breath then. I heard it, knocking. 3 soft knocks from the other side. I nearly dropped the flashlight. My hand shot to my mouth to muffle the scream. The knock came again, slower this time. 1, 2, 3. Then silence. I reached for the knob. It was ice cold, and then I saw a message scratched into the wood, just beneath the handle. She's not who you think she is. The flashlight flickered. Then died. Panic surged through me. I fumbled for my phone, no signal. Of course. I tried turning back toward the stairs, but the hallway had changed. It wasn't straight anymore, the walls warped outward, like a corridor in a funhouse. Doors disappeared. The wallpaper began to bleed at the edges, not peel. Bleed. I closed my eyes. I had to be hallucinating. PTSD. Dissociation. Something explainable. Something normal, but when I opened my eyes, I was already inside the attic. I don't remember opening the door. I don't remember walking in. But the air was heavy with dust and something sweet, like rotting flowers. I turned in slow circles, shining my weak phone light around the room, and there she was, sitting in a rocking chair by the window. Elsbeth, she hadn't aged, her auburn hair was tied in the same black ribbon I remembered. She wore a faded gray dress, and her hands were folded neatly in her lap, but her lips didn't move. She spoke into my mind like a whisper. You left me here. You forgot. You weren't supposed to. Forget. I tried to speak, but my throat was bone dry. Tears blurred my vision. I didn't forget. They made me. No one makes you forget unless you let them. She stood, and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. I stepped back instinctively. Who are you, Elsbeth? She tilted her head. Not what you remember, but what you feared. The house hid you. I tried to save you, from what? Her gaze drifted to the corner of the attic. I turned my light, and saw another door. I didn't remember that door. No scratches. No signs of use. Just wrongness. Behind that door is the truth you buried. But truths don't stay buried, Claire. Not forever. I walked to the door, but instead of a handle, I found a small wooden table sitting just in front of it. On the table was a tape recorder, an ancient one, the kind with a red record button and a yellowed label. The tape inside was already rewound. Play me, it said. I pressed play. Static. A few clicks. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 10 years. Mine. Day 6. I think she's drugging me. The tea tastes like iron and petals. Elsbeth says it helps me sleep, but I keep waking up with bruises I can't explain. I hear people in the attic at night. They say I'm sick. That I'm the dangerous one. But I'm not. I'm not. Click. Day 12. I tried to leave. She wouldn't let me. She says I belong to the house now. That it needs me to stay balanced. I found something in the basement. Something alive. Click. Final entry. If anyone finds this, she's not who you think she is. The house isn't haunted. It's hungry. And Elsbeth, she's the one who feeds it. I dropped the recorder, the attic groaned. Elsbeth was gone, and the second door creaked open, just a crack. The second attic door stood open now, barely. A thin sliver of blackness breathed out from within, and the scent that followed made my stomach turn. Damp soil, copper, and lilies long since wilted. It was never just a house. It had always been a trap. And I had come back, willingly. I stepped inside. The space was angular and unnatural, like it had been carved out of the house's memory instead of its structure. The walls were stitched together with crooked beams, and the air pulsed like a slow heartbeat. My flashlight lit the far wall, covered in photographs, Polaroids. Dozens. Girls my age. Some smiling. Some crying. All of them standing in front of this house, but none were me. Names were scrawled under each. Lena. Margot. Clara. Delilah. Some were crossed out. Others had given written underneath, and then I saw my photo, Claire. Dated 10 years ago. Stamped in red. Failed. My stomach turned, but my fury anchored me. I wasn't a failed offering. I was the girl who remembered. I rushed downstairs through the breathing hallway. The front door had vanished, consumed by the house, but I didn't want to leave, not yet. I was going down. There was no door to the basement. But my hands knew what to do. I reached the living room wall, pulled the iron sconce. The plaster cracked open like an old scar. Stairs waited. I descended into the dark. The air was wet and wrong. The floor was dirt. The walls stone. Candles burned in rings without smoke or heat. In the center stood a figure in gray, hands folded, face serene. Elsbeth. She turned as if she'd been expecting me. You shouldn't have come back. I stepped forward. You fed me to this house. To your ritual. You were weak. The house rejected you. I gave you a new life. I smiled coldly. You didn't give me anything. You erased me. But I remembered. And now I'm giving you something back. I pulled out the tape recorder. The one with all my lost memories. My voice, trembling, grieving, trapped. My pain, documented. I hit play. The sound echoed across the basement like a curse. My voice filled the chamber, fragmented, raw. She says I belong to the house now, that it needs me to stay balanced. I found something in the basement. Something alive. Elsbeth's eyes widened. Her lips curled in disgust. You don't know what you're doing. I do. I stepped closer, let the words wash over her. Her body trembled. Her hands clawed at her temples. Final entry. She's not who you think she is. The house isn't haunted. It's hungry. And Elsbeth, she's the one who feeds it. She dropped to her knees. Please, turn it off. I knelt in front of her, eye to eye. I'm not here for answers. I'm here to make sure you never forget what you've done. And then I shoved the recorder into the mirror. The mirror didn't break. It held. It absorbed every scream I had ever swallowed, every nightmare I was told was just imagination. And then it reflected it all, not to me, but to her. Elsbeth shrieked. Her skin paled. Her mouth gaped, but no sound came out. She was remembering every girl. Every lie. Every life she fed to this place. Her scream turned inward. She curled into herself, consumed by the weight of the truth. The candles flared. The house shook. The walls cracked, and the mirror shattered. From the inside, stone crumbled. The floor buckled. Screams rose from the earth, too many voices to count. I walked through it. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I just walked. The ceiling split. The ground gave way, and I left Elsbeth behind, screaming in silence, surrounded by every memory she stole. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the clearing. The house was gone. And no smoke. No ruin. Just the forest. Empty. Silent, except for one thing. A Polaroid in the grassy blank, until I picked it up. Then my face appeared, smiling, not erased. Not forgotten. Just free. They called me delusional. Sick. Unstable, but I was none of those things. I was silenced now. I remember, and because I remember, she'll never forget. If you felt that revenge burn slow and cold, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more real-life revenge stories. There's more where this came from. Stories of justice served cold, lies turned into weapons, and secrets clawing back to the surface every day. One voice. One truth. One unforgettable revenge. And remember, what they tried to erase might be the very thing that saves you.